Welcome to another episode of With Enough Prep Time. I always get this funny face that pauses on the screen when I start. My name is the Nerd Man, and we're going to be discussing again this really interesting because it's got two people who have views of Superman that I have problems with, and we're just about to hit on the problem that I have with what Jody says about Superman and his interpretation of Superman, which I also have some problems with. Not as many, but some problems with.
Okay. He doesn't waver. He doesn't change. He's
You're
not
right.
human.
You right, bro.
That's what makes him special.
You right.
You cannot humanize Superman.
You right.
He was sent here to be our aspiration.
Hey, I say it again. You're right. But this was Zack was trying to do. You got a freaking alien come down to Earth. He is unlike anybody on the planet. Zack did something so dope.
Man of Steel.
Remember the first Christopher Reeves movie where it kind of fast forward to him being a kid? Remember that?
Yes.
Zack stuck with that time period of him being a kid and focused on him socializing with humans. Bro, to me, that's genius.
Why is that genius? It's been done in Superman comics for a long time. I don't know why that's genius.
It's gonna be freaked up. It's gonna be messed up, bro.
You're not finishing it. You're not completing the story. That is not the story of Superman. If you are an alien with a father who purposely sent you to Earth to be their protector and their savior,
Jor-El did not do that.
Guide them out of the darkness and shadows.
Jor-El didn't
Be
send.
embraced and loved. That's the problem where Zack effed up.
So I know where he's getting this from, but that's not why Jor-El sent Superman to Earth. And also, I just don't like. As soon as somebody says to me, you cannot humanize Superman, I think you've got the whole thing completely wrong. And I think this is why Jody likes that trash Justice League version of Superman, where he's beating up all the Justice League and he's like just so OP and over the top and can do anything and just comes in and works over a villain that the Justice League entirely couldn't beat. And I think that's a terrible version of Superman. I think that is the Superman that is the most boring, vapid, whack character ever. The Superman that doesn't bleed when he faces somebody who is as powerful as him, or doesn't show hurt and pain. That for me is whack. I have no time for that Superman. This godly being that is sent, The one thing he said that was interesting is that Jor-El, and you'll hear why he says this. He says that Jor-El sent Superman here in order to be an inspiration to us. No, he didn't. That's not the joy and relatability of the story. The relatability of the story is Jor-El sends Superman here because it's his only chance for his son's survival of the complete annihilation of the planet Krypton. And that's what all of us would do if we had that chance. We'd be like, yeah, maybe we can risk it. I believe in the technology that I've built, that I can, that it will work and it will get him to a planet where, whatever happens because of the yellow sun, he won't be hurt. At least we know that. On this planet, people won't be able to. He'll have advantages to being able to survive in a hostile planet as an alien, because we know what the yellow sun star will do to our Kryptonian kind of biology, right? So that's the reason he sends him. It's not for him to be a savior of the planet. That just happens to be incidental, that he realizes that when he comes to the Fortress of Solitude and they give that whole poetic speech about they can be a good people, Kal-El. At least they wish to be. I would have liked, in Man of Steel, if he's giving that kind of advice, that somehow there's an AI that's been watching over the Earth since he landed on the planet, and that's how Jor-El knows that we can be a good people they wish to be. But it's such a powerful, strong bit of dialogue which he's going to mention in the future. It's probably my favorite quote from any Superman movie, is that Marlon Brando speech. It's epic, and they wish to be. They only need a light to show them the way, and it's just chills when I hear that. And so him saying that, and that's one of the things that is fire about Man of Steel, those speeches that they gave, because that trailer, I will always love the Man of Steel trailer when they give the different versions of the speeches by each dad. Good, bad, or bad, a good person or bad person, you're going to change the world. All of that stuff I love. But in any case, that speech that he gives, is incidental. The reason that Jor-El sends Superman here is for very, very relatable reasons. It's just that he wants his son to survive. He knows it's too late for him, his wife, his planet, but he wants to give his son a chance at survival. And I think that is the relatable, beautiful aspect of that story. I think, suggesting that he sent him here like to save us is a problem. I think that's applying some kind of religious, Christian kind of Judeo-Christian kind of ideas to the concept of Superman. The fact he becomes a savior or whatever is incidental, and I think he is very human. That's the beauty of him. He's the most human because he aspires to be human, and he takes on the best of the human qualities and whatever, and because he has the powers to do things that we often don't want to, he becomes even more human and sees that if you can do right and you can do good, why not just try and do good for people and save people from natural disasters and stuff like that, and be that kind of inspiration. But the Clark Kent character is human. He's very, very human. That he's got all the problems of a human because the girl that he likes doesn't love him. He's a geek. People don't, they overlook him. He's a mild-mannered kind of guy who's got those kind of issues. And that is what they need to highlight in a modern Superman. The human in Superman is the selling point of Superman, because that's where the conflict happens between this person who on the surface looks so normal and average, and people overlook him and girls don't like him, but on the other side he's the most handsome, the one all the women want to be with, the hero kind of figure on the inside, and they just can't see that in Clark Kent. And that's the beauty of the Superman kind of, the duality between the characters. And he's the archetype of that, and the best version of that duality in all of superhero fiction, in my opinion. Nobody touches the Clark Kent Superman duality. Not Batman, not Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman shouldn't have a secret identity, in my opinion. Not anyone. No one touches it. Okay, let's continue. I haven't heard any of the rest of this.
Freaking Jonathan Kent sucked. He had people in his head shaping him to be.
Yeah.
He didn't have the structure in Man of Steel.
I will
that's
admit
why
this.
He was lost.
I will admit this and agree with you on this. Jonathan Kent did suck in Man of Steel.
There are good people, Kal-El, they wish to be. They only lack the light to show them the way. And for this I give
sent
them
you, my only son. Beautiful.
You don't mess with that.
And you don't mess
Period.
with that.
That's comic book and film.
You're right.
And Zack messed with it.
But I don't think Zack was wrong for trying to make Superman relatable.
Oh God, here we go.
Motherfuckers can't relate to Superman, bro.
Yes, you can. I relate to him.
I relate to him.
I relate to him. He's extremely relatable when it comes to situations that he deals with. Does he not have a dead father? You can't. Anybody that has a father that is not here can't relate to him. A farmer, a hard worker, a go-getter,
a dead father who, died of like very simple causes, a heart attack, right? And he has all these powers, but he couldn't stop the most simple of things, that happens in nature. Beautiful. Of course, that's relatable. Relatable. He can't get Lois Lane. She's the girl. She's the girl next door. The girl of our dreams. The girl that we've all wanted to kick it with, and she just has no interest in him. Relatable. He's kind of a geek. He's kind of somebody who looks at things, situations where you just wish you could do the right thing, and he just happens that he can do it. So, he's a person who has a lot of duality and has to hide a lot of things from people that he wishes that he could show everyone. That's relatable. He's a character that is, he's for me, in the top. If done right, he's either the most unrelatable character, Superman, or the most relatable. If done right, and you do a modern version, right? Not the Christopher Reeves kind of Charlie Chaplin-esque 70s version that worked for the 70s because of the aesthetics of their kind of movies, especially their children's movies. But that Clark Kent was relatable. That Clark Kent was relatable for that 70s character, and I even relate to him now. When the gunman takes him into the alley and he's about to shoot, it's probably my second favorite line in all of Superman after they can be a good people, Kal-El, they wish to be. After that, when Lois Lane in the original Superman movie and Clark Kent are taken into the alley and the guy is going to shoot him, and he says, hey mister, you can't solve all of society's problems with a gun. And we know I know you've hit upon hard times, but I know really inside you don't want to rob us. And the guy goes, oh, I've changed a new leaf, and after I rip you off, I'm gonna really change my mind and become a Buddhist or whatever. And he literally turns to, he says, I've changed my mind. And he turns to Lois after he says, I've changed my mind. And he says, see, Lois, I knew this guy was really good-hearted, and all of that stuff was brilliant. And then afterwards, he winks into the camera, letting us know that we're in it with him. We're in on the joke with him. This guy's a funny, relatable, humorous guy. He's got a sense of humor. He doesn't take himself too seriously. He's just a down-to-earth, good guy. And I find that relatable. I'm not. I'm a horrible person. I'm like a really bad person. But that doesn't mean I can't relate to people who do. It's like saying, like, have you ever met somebody who goes out and works, like a doctor who decides to go and work in Africa or India when he could be, making loads of money in the States? That's a relatable guy. You can relate to that. Maybe you might even be the type of guy who would be like, if I was a doctor, I'd probably just work where I can make loads of money. But you can still relate to the guy who goes out and sacrifices and does things. You can be like, yeah, that guy's a cool guy. Or even if you can't relate to him, you can be like, that guy's a cool guy. I like that guy. I'll have a beer with him. Let him tell me his wonderful stories about saving people in Asia or Africa or wherever he's gone. Right? So I just do not buy for a second that Superman, just because he's altruistic and does the good thing and he's the Boy Scout, is not relatable. It's that we don't have that version or our version of that character now. That's what we need. Once we have our version of that character now, you will see there'll be a lot more Superman t-shirts and people will start jumping on the bandwagon. It may be too late because Zack Snyder might have ruined the character, but like, you know, who knows? We'll see. Anyway, let's continue on. This is really interesting. I'm enjoying this.
Nerd, someone who's trying to get the girl but can't. Well, there's so much there for people to relate to. I don't understand where this comes from. Superman haters make these excuses up.
But I'm talking about
True.
Zack took the hero's journey route. Okay, like
Hero's
let's take for
journey, right.
instance.
There is no
Star
such
Wars.
thing as a hero's journey route with Superman, though. That's what I'm saying. Hero's journey is for people who are one way and they're not a hero, who have to learn how to finally get there. Superman, from day one, has always been a freaking perfect hero.
Now,
He's always the beat.
Now watch this. That's dope you said that. You understand Superman. But let me ask you this question. The average moviegoer who want to just turn off their brain and see a big giant slugfest, do they know that, what you just told me?
Okay, this is perfect. Because this is what I want people who like Man of Steel to just admit. He just admitted what I think, I know people who like Man of Steel really what they love, because they try and make all these excuses. It's deep, it means this, it means that, stuff that isn't even in the film. They try and suggest that the film is suggesting this or meaning this, or the subtext of all of it is this. What people really like about Man of Steel is the action scenes, and I like the action scenes. It's just I don't care about the characters in the action scenes. And therefore, it becomes monotonous and boring. Because you've got two invincible people punching each other. But it is cool to see buildings fall down and things explode and all of that cool stuff. That's why you like the movie. And that's fine. Just say that. Don't pretend it's this deep, meditative, original, unique, ingenious movie. It isn't. It just is not. And BVS... I give that more. I like some of the writing there, and visually it's really interesting. So I'd say more along the lines of BVS is a little bit underrated. I think it's quite underrated, even though I understand why people dislike it, because again, the treatment of Superman. It's not a Superman versus Batman movie. It's somebody with Superman's abilities versus someone with Superman's powers versus someone with Batman's abilities. It's not Batman v Superman. So I can understand that problem. But if I take away and I just pretend, okay, forget about it, just this is a movie, I think it has a lot of interesting, I think it has a lot of merit actually as a movie. And I think philosophically it's very interesting. I love the helipad scene with Lex Luthor. It's one of my favorite scenes. But Man of Steel is not that. It's a David Goyer mess. David Goyer, same guy who gave us, let's see, when he's on his own, when he's got a writing partner and someone who can shape his ideas, like Jonathan Nolan, which was The Dark Knight. He worked on him with it, and Dark Knight Rises. Jonathan Nolan worked with him on that. Those are two good movies by David Goyer, written by David Goyer. When he's off the chain, he's very hit or miss. When he's left to his own devices. So you look at something like Blade. Blade, huge problem as a movie. You look at something like... Blade was really good. Blade was really good, especially for its time. It hasn't aged well, but it was really good for its time. I remember watching that in the cinemas and thinking it was a blast. But then he did stuff like what is the Nicolas Cage movie with the Ghost Rider? Horrible. That's what happens. And it's got really good ideas in it, Ghost Rider, but terrible execution. And that's what Man of Steel is. Bunch of very, very good ideas, terrible execution. And there was one other thing he said during that part, which was so important, which I wanted to respond to. Let me just go back a tiny bit. What else did he just say?
Superman haters make these excuses up.
But I'm talking about Zack took the hero's journey route.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna show off about my knowledge about the hero's journey just a little bit. The hero's journey can be applied to Superman. It's just that there's a certain kind of characters in the hero's journey where you have it's the called the call to adventure. People can either deny the call to adventure, or they can go ahead and they'll be like, as soon as they're called to the adventure, they don't in any way deny their path. They don't say, oh, maybe not. So, for instance, Spider-Man is the classical person who at first does not take on the call to adventure, the call that is to become Spider-Man. He in first decides to use his Spider-Man powers for his own interest. That works with Spider-Man, okay? Because the journey for him is to change and develop and to become a better person from the Spider-Man powers. There are other characters like Luke Skywalker, who is absolutely, unless you've got a really, really good take on it, he should never, or Captain America, they should never, ever, they should be in hot pursuit of the call to adventure, right? So Captain America, Luke Skywalker, these are people who, when there's maybe some wise person or some elder person who puts them on the path to the journey, it could be a father figure, it could be Jor-El, it could be Jonathan Kent, but put them on the path to becoming the hero that we know. The aspirational hero should never ever say no to that call of the heroic journey. What makes them interesting usually is that those people who are more reluctant to take on the call of adventure, right? Who are more cynical, who are a little bit more skeptical about being heroes, right? Someone like in Star Trek, the latest Star Trek, Captain Kirk is somebody he doesn't want to join Starfleet. He wants to continue boozing and chasing girls, and he's a little bit cynical and skeptical of his journey to becoming the captain, that we all know and love, right? That makes sense for that character. But they are usually more skilled and more intelligent and more, well-rounded in terms of their ability to take on the heroic journey, right? What they need to change is their inside and their morality, right? So that they can become the hero. Whereas the aspirational hero is less skilled, doesn't really know how to use their powers or abilities yet, doesn't really, just knows. They might not even know they have powers before they get the call to adventure. So they're just like, something bad is happening in the world, I've got to go and help, I've got to go and save the people. They might not even know they have abilities before they go to, or they might not have abilities before they take on the call to adventure. Like Captain America, he's like, I've got to go to the World War II, I've got to save the people, got to help the people, right? Even before he has powers, he just goes and he takes the call of adventure. I'm gonna help the people. The people need help, right? Before he even has powers, he's less skilled, has less abilities to be able to handle the call to adventure, and that's their journey. Their journey is discovering their abilities and powers that will allow them to be able to finally defeat the monster, the evil, at the end of their journey, right? So that is what Superman should be. Superman, in the first movie, in Man of Steel, should have been, I'm going to take the call of adventure. I'm going to, Park Kent taught me right. Call of adventure. I need to help the people. The people need help. I need to save them. But he doesn't know his abilities, or he's unskilled in how to use his abilities, especially maybe against somebody of equal, like a Kryptonian or something like that, who's been a general or a warrior or something like that. So he doesn't know how to fight. He doesn't know how to use his abilities in a kind of aggressive way. So it's a struggle for him to face that kind of evil or opponent. So the hero's journey is different. I hope you understand that now. If people aren't aware of what they're talking about with the hero's journey. The hero's journey is very different for an aspirational hero, for an anti-hero, for a reluctant hero. All of those are different. And I bet you if you go through and start thinking of the kind of anti-hero or the reluctant hero, Han Solo versus Luke Skywalker. What's Luke Skywalker? I don't even know Star Wars, so tell me if I'm wrong. But I'm betting that Luke Skywalker as an aspirational hero is somebody who is untrained, unskilled in his abilities at first, but he's just like, I've got to go help the people, got to go and save the Force and and have the Force save the people or whatever it is, right? And he's gung ho on taking that calling of adventure to stop the dark side, got to stop the dark side, but he's just not skilled enough as a warrior. Yeah, and it's that he has to develop through. So his moral compass is always the same, but he has to develop the skills to be able to finally be the warrior that we all know that he's capable of being. And then you've got, on the other hand, somebody who is reluctant to take the call, or he decides, I'm going to take the call, like Han Solo. I haven't seen this since I was about 6-7 years old, but I bet you, and I don't remember much of it, but I bet you what is Han Solo's, maybe there's something like a girl or something that he wants, or he's reluctant to take the call, but he sees something that he can get out of this adventure. Maybe there's some money at the end of it, and then his journey is his moral compass then grows to catch up with it, and then he realizes, the money or the girl is not the important thing. The important thing is being the hero and saving the world, right? That's the journey. That's the two distinct journeys. And when you mess with that, when you take somebody who's supposed to have the aspirational hero's journey and you make them a reluctant hero, you have a big problem, because you're going to have a disconnect from the audience, because they have in their mind a universal mythological story that is going on in their head, that is playing in their head, that this film isn't working with. And if you're going to do that, you better do it well. You better do it flawlessly. If you're going to mess with, if you're going to mess with those kind of conventions, or you're going to try and subvert them, you better do it really, really good, like Watchmen level good. Otherwise, you're going to lose people. All right. So that's that. I'm going to respond to one more thing and see.
Hey, let's take for instance.
There is no such thing as a hero's journey route with Superman, though. That's what I'm saying. Hero's journey is for people who are one way and they're not a hero, who have to learn how to finally get there. Superman, from day one, has always been a freaking perfect hero.
Now,
always the beat.
Now, watch this. That's dope you said that. You understand Superman. But let me ask you this question. The average moviegoer who want to just turn off their brain and see a big, giant slugfest, do they know that, what you just told me?
No, do they know Superman is almost perfect? Yes.
The way you broke that down, no, they don't.
Yes, they do. The general knowledge of Superman is that he's a good Boy Scout who's dang near perfect, who has no flaws. That's the general conception of.
He does have flaws. I'm gonna have to respond to this because I'm afraid that it might cut me off. So I'll respond to that. Superman does have flaws. His flaw is that there's a lot of flaws in Superman. I think to say he's unflawed. First of all, he doesn't. In terms of being the hero, he's not a great fighter at first or something like that, as I said. So if you face him against somebody equally as powerful, dark side, and more skilled and more devious and more cunning and more a more ruthless kind of opponent, he's really flawed in being able to, face them. And as a character, he does have flaws as well, which I'll go into in the next video. But please like, subscribe, discuss. I'm having a really interesting time doing this, so thanks very much for listening. Discuss, make comments.